Hello 1001, welcome to week 13. This is the second to last week of the course, and we are in the final stretches of the semester and moving right along in our study of ecology. So this week we're tackling two big subjects in ecology, that is community ecology and ecosystem ecology. Community ecology is primarily focused on understanding how species interact and how that in turn influences what kind of species live in a community and how communities really function. So we'll be learning about different types of species interactions, mutualisms, competition, parasitism, and we'll be also learning about how communities are structured. So for instance, we'll be learning about what a keystone species is. These are species that are particularly important to the kind of maintenance and sustainability of a community. We'll be learning specifically about the honeybee and how that the honeybee, if removed from a community, can have major consequences for what species can persist in that community in sort of these major downstream effects, right? We'll also be looking at how energy moves through a community. So we'll be learning about food chains, food pyramids, and really sort of the process of how energy is lost as you move up the food chain. That's actually a very useful transition point into our study of ecosystem ecology, where we'll be learning about nutrient cycles, in particular the carbon and nitrogen nutrient cycle. And the carbon cycle is related to the transfer of energy because the transfer of energy is all about respiration. You consume some amount of organic material and you break that carbon down through respiration, where you expel CO2, right? So plants pull in CO2 from the atmosphere, they make sugars. We eat those sugars, we break those sugars down to make energy, and then we expel that CO2. That is the basic outline of the carbon cycle. And the nitrogen cycle, in a similar way, involves converting atmospheric N2 into mobilized forms of nitrogen that plants can uptake and incorporate and use to build things that are important to life, like DNA. That's really why we focus on the nitrogen cycle. It's one of the fundamental resources, or nutrients, that life relies on. To that end, we'll also be looking at how human activities have influenced and sort of upset these nutrient cycles. We'll be looking at how humans have upset the nitrogen cycle through excessive fertilization. We'll be looking at how humans have affected the carbon cycle through excessive CO2 generation by the consumption of fossil fuels. And of course, this is the root cause of modern climate change. And so we'll be looking at how climate change has affected, in turn, the communities that we see around us. So how is climate change affecting the organisms in these communities and the diversity of these communities overall? This is some work that I'm particularly interested in. I've done a lot of research in this area, looking at how species are going to move in response to climate change, how species have already responded to climate change. You'll be looking at some work by one of my colleagues, Libby Elwood. It's in page 489. And some work she did looking at how flowering times are responding to climate change. In a similar vein, I've done some work that showed that species that can't respond to climate change by adjusting their flowering time are tending to go extinct or be locally lost. And so it has real-world consequences for these organisms. It's not just that they flower earlier or later, it's that those have downstream consequences. And of course, as you lose species, other species that interact with them suffer similar consequences. So we'll be kind of linking these two concepts together, community ecology and ecosystem ecology, in this section. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard week. You have 2 chapters to read, 2 quizzes, you have your central questions with your group, and then you have your final lab report that's due at the end of the week. Take time to make sure you make this is your last chance. It's worth a lot of points. And so, make a good effort on this lab report. Take advantage of the help you got from your peers. And if you have any questions about that, or you aren't sure exactly how to move forward with the report, please just reach out to me or Lindsay. We're happy to help. We want you to do well on these reports. So we want you to also understand the science is a collaborative process. It involves feedback. It involves looking for feedback. And so if you're unsure about what to do in this report or how to make sure that you're on the right track, let us know and we'll help you. Okay? Otherwise, have a good week.